Hello everyone, welcome to the Market Outlook midweek this Wednesday morning as I speak to all of you all at around about 9:45, 10. Markets have given up their early gains. The recovery that we saw and is trading in the red, approximately about 200 points down on the Sensex, 70 odd points down on the Nifty as I speak to you. And other sectorial indices are also down and out. Thanks to the evolving situation in the Middle East, West Asia, and the confusing and chaotic statements that are made by the representatives of Trump administration from the White House has added to the chaos and confusion. Having said that, let me first give you certain levels, approximate levels on the Nifty for the remainder of this week. On the lower side, 24,000, 24,100 is the level that we should see a little bit of buying coming in and support. 24,300 to 24,500 on the higher side is the broad range. So you have a range of almost about 300 to 400 points wherein which the markets would be trading. Having said that, stock specific movement will definitely be there on fallback of evolving and developing story in the Middle East, whether there is any kind of news flow on the resolution, on the de-escalation, etc., etc. And if there is escalation, then sectors which are relatively less affected will be in the spotlight. So plan your short-term, medium-term trading accordingly. I would rather advise that you need to rethink your short-term, medium-term trading strategy given the volatility and choppiness in the market. And of course, the India Volatility Index, which had climbed out to 22 plus, has cooled off but is marginally up today, 19.05, uptick of about 1%. And on the rupee dollar equation, slight weakness in the rupee after gaining a little bit of strength. 91.94 is the level to $1, 0.13 paise weakness. On the crude oil front, now this has been the major attraction of spotlight over the last 3-4 days since the time the problem in Strait of Hormuz and of course short supply and force majeure being applied by certain countries in the production facility because they've got bombarded, attacked by drones, missiles, etc., etc. So crude oil after boiling has cooled off a little bit. $87.10 to a barrel is Brent. $83.15 to a barrel is NYMEX. And as far as India is concerned, friends, I think there have been statements made by the PMO's office and various ministers that in India's energy security is secured, and they have been that the government is talking to 40 plus nations to negate the impact of supply side issues as far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned. As we all know, heard and read that 70% plus that comes into India comes via Strait of Hormuz, and unfortunately that is under siege. Though there are conflicting statements made by US, Israel, and Iran on the passage route, which happens to be one of the most important passage sea routes for the world energy supply. Having said that, I think what needs to be followed in terms of strategy is that there is an approximately 10% correction on the markets from the highs to the lows that we've seen. Will there be further correction? Well, honestly, friends, it will totally depend upon what the news flow is, and every hour is a news hour, a breaking story, a breaking news. The story is evolving, and depending upon the news flows, we will possibly react to it, and the markets will react to it. Having said that, the statement that I made earlier that your short-term trading strategy should be revisited in terms of your risk appetite and long-term investment philosophy should be bought in. Because given the fact that you got a 10% correction, possibility of another 5-10% correction cannot be ruled out given the kind of developing story in the Middle East and of course the impact of crude oil prices in the world economy and a short to medium term red flags that have been raised across the globe. So this is the kind of market which has possibly given opportunities to investors to create a strong portfolio. Look, one thing is there, friends, that we have seen this kind of situations earlier. But the problem with this situation is that it has never been a big embargo or a transport freeze as far as the Strait of Hormuz and Iran is concerned, and escalation of higher payloads in the warheads that are carried and fired across each other, especially from Iran on to other countries. So This is a seed, this is a situation which will be evolving. And I think one thing that has been creating and bothering the market is the uh, confusing and conflicting statements that are made by the White House. I think they should get their act in place and draw a line or follow certain uh, principles. Somebody saying that they escorted a oil tanker and then deleting that statement is something that you need to be very careful in this kind of a scenario. You can't have any kind of conflicting or confusing views coming out of White House. So that's my personal view, of course. But like I mentioned, it is going to be choppy, volatile till the time we have some positive news flow and de-escalation. So we mentioned about investment idea, and of course, yesterday the government has relaxed certain norms as far as FDI flows are concerned. So that should be also taken as a positivity. Investment ideas are plenty in this kind of a market too. Before I give that, a standard disclosure that all recommendations that I'll be sharing with you in our video Geojit Spotlight are from a long-term point of view. On the fundamental side, by our fundamental research team, our company Geojit or myself, we do not have any kind of personal investments, no financial interest, no conflict of interest, but we give recommendations to our clients on similar lines. They might have their investment interest. So first one is from the EMS sector, PG Electroplast, small to mid cap kind of a company. Despite the government given in principle approval for Chinese companies to come into India, I don't think it's going to be a big concern or a huge negative news flow for Indian chips, because government has already lined up PLI scheme, etc., and policies, etc., for the Indian companies which are focusing into chip, semiconductor, PCBs, etc., etc. So we rather think it as a positive news flow and benefit Indian companies is something that is. So PG Electroplast is the first one. Second one is from the cement sector, mid cap company called Ramco Cement. Both these investment ideas are from a long term point of view. These are not BTST 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. These are long term, effectively 1.5, 2 year plus kind of time horizon. Start nibbling into these stocks. Don't put all your money at one time. Markets are uncertain. You will get opportunity to increase your investments in these stocks, but at least make a beginning. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to price the market. Give time to the market is something that is prudent after investing into strong fundamental stock ideas. So these two are the recommendation, friends: PG Electroplast and Ramco Cement from a long-term point of view. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. I'll see you again next week, please. The next Monday rather. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye bye.